Due to some unforeseen circumstances, we had to record today's podcast at Lodestone Coffee and Games in Minnetonka. We're super thankful for Lodestone letting us record, and there may be some background noise in today's episode. We apologize for this, but we're happy you're still listening and hope you enjoy today's podcast. Thanks. Welcome to Not So Serious Magic. My name is Landon. This is my co-host, Adam. Adam, how are you today?
I'm doing very well on this very cold, not snowy day.
It's just windy and bone-chilling, and we don't like it.
Terrible winter.
Not
but
nice.
I'm glad to be inside where we can make some bold B&R predictions that will
Yes.
probably be proven wrong very shortly. We'll also attempt to make some predictions about Standard, discuss a few judge issues, and talk about... We both attempted to stream a little bit this past
We did
week.
some streaming.
So we'll discuss that a little bit. First, if we could be serious for just a minute, get you to follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Patreon, or iTunes at NotSoSRS Magic. We would love that very much, and it would float our goats, as Landon likes to say.
It would. Also, today we actually kind of ran into an issue. It's Martin Luther King Day. We're recording today, and it's actually 9:42 for the ban restricted. Later, we're going to talk about that.
Yes,
but
we have not looked at anything
Yes.
yet. We promise.
we're both clean-eyed.
Cross our hearts, swear
Yes.
to die, poke a needle in Landon's eye.
But
not mine.
okay. But anyways, today's MLK Day, and we actually kind of missed the fact that the library where we normally record is going to be closed. So we actually had to go to Lodestone Coffee and Games in Minnetonka.
Delicious mocha.
Delicious coffee. We're very thankful for them letting us record. They're the coolest guys. Come buy cards, do cool stuff. It's a good time.
And drink a mocha.
Drink a mocha. Adam has not put his mocha down.
chug this thing.
He's chugging his mocha right now. Send help. All right.
Burns.
So Adam, let's talk about the ban and restricted today. Let's make some bold predictions.
Yeah, you said it's 9:40 something.
Yes.
We haven't looked at anything yet. We'll do that in a little while.
Yep.
My prediction
Yep.
is no changes.
Whoa.
But maybe an unbanning, but I don't play Modern. I never played with Stoneforge or any of
Sure.
the other things that people want unbanned, except Twin. Twin, I hate Twin. Twin can die in a fire.
You've had this negative
God,
trauma
yeah.
with Twin, though.
Yeah,
That's
and
your
the Jace unbanning seems to be working, and maybe having more options like a Stoneforge will distract from KCI, or
Yep.
maybe it works into KCI somehow and everybody will hate it more. But my thoughts on, since KCI is the elephant in the room,
Right.
it's dull, it's complex, it survives its hate, but it's not overpowering the format.
That's true.
It just swarmed this last Grand Prix, but I took a deep dive into some of the results over the past year. Looking back in February at JP Lyon, no KCI in the top 32.
Tons of Tron.
Tons of Tron.
Yeah.
Tron was the big bad at the time.
Ban Tron.
Yeah,
Ban
exactly.
Tron. Yeah, okay, all right, yeah.
People were talking about banning ancient stirrings then, too, which they
Sure.
were talking about with KCI.
Right.
Then it appeared at GP Phoenix in March, but humans won, not KCI.
Yep.
It does win the next two GPs in April and June, Vegas and Hartford. But it was the same guy. The same guy wins that one.
Yep.
It's one pilot can win with this deck. Makes a few more appearances in top 32, loses a few more GPs, appears once at GP Sao Paulo in July, doesn't win, same with Prague, doesn't show up at all at GP Stockholm. But if you hate control, like certain other Adams from Commander Smith do not look at those deck lists. It was like the top 8 was 6 of 8 was control of some sort. Appears again at GP Atlanta in November, but Spirits wins for the second time in a row. But nobody was looking to ban anything from Spirits. That was 2 in a row. Small appearance at GP Portland in December, not in the top 8. And then I just looked briefly. There was a SEG Open on the 13th of January. 3 KCI in the top 25, but nothing above 15. That event just had a ton of Is It Phoenix decks.
Yeah, that's a new upcoming one.
And then there was an SCG Modern Classic that same day with no KCI in the top 18. So it shows up.
Right.
It controls a few things. It wins a few events.
Yeah.
But Tron wins several. Spirits wins several. It's no different than anything other than being terrible to watch.
Yeah, that's exactly where it is. And I think it's also, like you mentioned about Spirits, like I feel like people, especially Magic, the Magic gods and all the WotC folks, I feel like they're a little more happy when broken decks win fairly. Like like, oh, creature beats, so we won. You know, I feel like that's a happier thing to watch.
Right,
Everyone's
right.
happier, even though it is broke as heck.
The other thing is there's not a modern Pro Tour Mythic Championship coming up.
Yeah.
And that's when they like to shake it up.
Exactly.
That's when the twin ban happened.
Right. Yep. Exactly right. So, yeah, I mean, definitely, that's kind of where I'm at, too. I mean, I guess if you're done.
I'm done. You take your predictions.
I would love to. So, okay, so I think, I made a couple bold predictions today. I think KCI will definitely be banned.
That is bold.
I definitely be banned. So, here's the thing. I mentioned it last time a little bit in detail. Like, we have a couple of different, like, criteria from Wizards saying about, like, okay, like, here is why a deck will be banned, or here's why a card will be banned normally. And there's two different criteria. And it's like, because a card breaks the format, where it's so powerful that you actually have to be playing hate against it in order to win. Every deck has to play hate against it in order to win. Or a card that is so broke that it has, like, its own combo. So, like, copycat combo.
Yeah.
That's the problem. It needs to get banned, right? Because it's gonna get played in one. So the KCI is really neither of these things. It's just not fun to watch. Like, and that's the reason it'll get banned, because Wizards knows that people watch these events and they want it to be fun and enjoyable, and no one likes watching, you know, some guy stack his triggers and then win with a Pyrite Spellbound that he recurs 1,000 times.
Right.
Like,
And
it's not a fun thing to
And
watch.
it's a very complex deck that even those who know how to play Magic have a hard time understanding, because
yeah.
it's holding priority and doing a lot of things.
Exactly.
And yeah.
And honestly, the best way to learn that deck, like, I didn't really know how to play Dredge for a long time. Then I played Dredge for a while, like in Legacy, like Manaless Dredge, and like that opened my eyeballs. Like, I was like, whoa. So that's, I think, the best way to learn KCI. But anyways, yeah, I think KCI will definitely be banned. No, we're not going to ban Ancient Stirrings.
No?
We're not going to ban.
You don't wanna go after the Tron
definitely
too?
not. So here's the thing: Ancient Stirrings is like a really, really, really good card. Like, you know how, like, we got Lightning Bolt. You know how that like in the beginning of Magic there was
Mocha
that
Break.
There was that Mocha Break, like the Mocha. In the beginning of Magic, there was like that big long set of cards. There were the 1-mana cards that were super duper, like Ancestral Recall,
Bolts.
but bolts, right? All those cards that were like, whoa, these are the 1-mana good cards. Ancient Stirrings almost fits in that category. Like, it's a really, really powerful card. I mean, colorless cards are huge. I mean, there's so many colors. It fits in a lot of decks. It's not the thing that makes KCI good.
It
just
makes
not.
it consistent. That
It helps in its consistency.
Right.
It doesn't make it any, like, yes, it makes it more consistent. However, KCI would find another way to be consistent and would probably still win a lot of games if it didn't have Ancient Stirrings. It's gas to the fire. It's not the reason the KCI is good, you know? So I don't think we need to ban Ancient Stirrings. I've heard some folks say, let's ban Faithless Looting. How about no? Faithless Looting is such a good card, and it's like your grandma. Like, your grandma is just such an awesome person. You just like, wow, I can count on my grandma. You know, like, she's always there for me. Like, it's just good all the way around. Like, you know, that's just a wholesome card, I feel like.
It's one of those, that article, I don't remember who wrote that, about it's a cantrip just like any of the other cantrips that they banned. Why not ban, like, be consistent in what you're banning here? There was some merit to that. I don't see it as a cantrip, but I'm also not good at Magic. So.
I mean, the recursion in Flashback is amazing, but, like, nah, it's not a thing. The modern meta is really diverse right now. I mean, yeah, you see a lot of spiritual, you see a lot of humans, but, like, it's pretty clear that it's a pretty diverse meta. I mean, Hollow One is still huge in the meta. Grixis Death Shadow's coming back now. It's getting played a lot more, so, like, that's a big thing.
That deck is awesome.
It's so fun. Value Town. So my next prediction is Ferocidon, which is that dino that whenever a creature enters, a player loses 1 life. It's going to be unbanned in Standard. I don't know. I mean, I guess I get why it was banned in Standard, because no one wants to play against that. It's not a fun card to play against. It'll be unbanned. It's not overpowered, I don't think. I mean, it's good, but it's not overpowered.
I would have to look up why that was banned in the first place. But I don't dare look at my phone yet.
Players can't gain life, and then whenever a creature enters the battlefield, it does 1 damage to
no, I'm going to disagree. That is not getting unbanned. Not with the mono red deck that is about to pop out.
I suppose that is true. No, I don't think it's. I don't think that it's.
Because life gain is the one way to fight that deck.
Yeah, I suppose. But also having efficient removal, having a lot of removal. Like, if you play mono red against, like, Golgari midrange, that the decks are like, once Golgari midrange catches up, because Golgari doesn't have a lot of life gain really. Once they catch up, like once they're like 4 life and they catch up, like, and they stabilize, that deck usually wins because it has so much more value. So, anyways, I don't think it's fine. I think it's fine. And then my drum roll, please. Stoneforge Mystic will definitely be unbanned. Here's why. So she's been banned for a while now. And so Wizards are kind of afraid because so Wizards is like kind of banned it because they don't want to make equipment that is too good, right? They don't want to give fire or like feed the flames of Stoneforge Mystic.
What does the card do?
Oh, okay. So Stoneforge Mystic is a 2-mana core artificer, I think. Not that it really matters. When it enters the battlefield, you get to tutor up an equipment, and then it's like an Aether Vial for equipment. So you pay 2 mana, tap, and you get to put it on the battlefield. So like imagine, for if you will, turn 2 core artificer, Stoneforge, and then turn 3 your Batterskulling or your Sword of Fire and Icing, big artifacts that do a lot of cool stuff. So she's been banned for a while, and so Wizards doesn't want to make more equipment that's going to overpower this card. So right now in the meta, in the modern meta, it's so healthy. We have so much stuff going on in the modern meta. I mean, like I said before, Grixis Death Shadow, Hollow One, Dredge, all these different strategies. It's throwing some craziness into the ring. It's not going to hurt anything. It really isn't. I mean, I am so much more afraid of things on turn 4 than a Batterskull. like seriously, if I'm not dead or dying by turn 4 and it's like against elves or something weird, Jace. I mean, I'm not worried about it. It's getting 3/4/4s on turn 2 is something I have done. Like I have gotten 3/4/4s on turn 2. I get that Hollow One is a little bit more of an inconsistent strategy, but it's still a strategy. I mean, it still happens. I mean, Bridgevine, when it was a thing, you're getting whatever 3 or 4 Vengevines and zombies and all this stuff. It's a thing. I mean, there are degenerate combos. Storm is still a thing. I mean, there's degenerate combos that happen. Getting a 4/4 with lifelink and vigilance, it's not going to ruin them out of meta. I just don't think it is. We're gonna come back.
We'll come back to this in a little bit.
And we're gonna see how right and wrong everyone is.
Probably wrong. Well, I guess we took very disparate spots or positions.
We did. All right.
We got our predictions in. Let's talk about another topic here. We both did some streaming this week.
We did streaming, yes.
Testing it out a little bit. Didn't get a whole lot of views, and that's okay. I was fine with not having 100 people watching me suck at Magic.
Yeah.
It was kind of stressful for me just trying to figure out, like, we were using Streamlabs OBS, which is pretty straightforward, and I watched a few videos like from Gabby Sparts on how to set these things up and some other people, and even then it was still confusing. At one point I had clicked a theme, like I chose the Magic WotC had a theme as part of this that you could use for free. I chose Karn, and then I clicked something, and all of a sudden the screen it was showing was the test image, and when I clicked stream, it was just showing the test image and not me playing the game. And I could not figure out how to fix that for a while. So it's quasi easy. You just got to put a little effort and do a little research on that. But it was fun. I had fun.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun doing it too. I have to figure out, like you say, I think it's about just like putting time in, fiddling with it, being like, oh, that didn't work, that worked, that didn't work. And it's kind of like learning from mistakes.
Yeah.
I mean, I definitely think there's a couple of ways like to kind of make it easier. So like I was actually watching Saffron Olive's stream. And I asked him actually in stream, I was like, hey, do you like use 2 monitors? Like, what do you do? He was like, yep, I use 2 monitors because it's easier. That way I can actually, because when you're actually playing, you have the game screen on one screen, and he has the chat and his like donations, all his stuff on the other screen, so he can play the game on one and then look at it. So for me, I only have 1 monitor, so I was like, I was looking at my game screen. Like I had Arena up, I was playing Arena, and then I had to switch back to the chat, and then switch back to Arena, and then switch back to the chat. To like kind of. So then it was kind of
that's a lot of resource intense for your computer.
Seriously, and it wasn't even that bad because it was mostly a couple folks watching, not a whole lot of chat going on. But I mean, I can imagine if there was a large group of people watching, it would be a lot harder.
That would have been a less than ideal stream situation. And
definitely.
You were watching me stream for a bit, and I was having some microphone issues, like with some feedback or stuff, and trying to figure that out, and the sound levels on different things. And so it's just a lot of trial and error and trying to figure these things out.
Right. I think my goal is actually to eventually get this microphone we used to record and actually have that for streaming.
Oh, nice.
I
just have a headset.
Yeah.
The other thing I was finding because you were there and another buddy Eric was there watching, and you were chatting a little bit. That's kind of intense to try to go back and forth, because I do have 2 monitors, but they're like pointed each different directions,
Right.
trying to turn my head like, all right,
Right.
can't look at the game. Oh, what's my opponent doing? Oh crap, they cast something. And
Well, and the thing too is like I feel the problem with like when I watch Saffron Olive stream on MTG Goldfish, he like usually he's playing Moto, so or Magic Online, which is not Arena and very different than Arena. Arena has the turn the rope, so it's like every turn I have the rope to or the timer.
Yeah.
We call it the rope because it looks like a rope when it burns out, but the timer is turn by turn by turn, and it like passes priority to you, and each time you have to actually click the resolve button. Whereas on Moto, Magic Online, there's a timer for the match, so there's a 25-minute timer for each person, and it runs down so that way you can actually take a little more time to do things. You don't have to push the resolve button every second. Otherwise, you run out of turn. You just get the default action picked. So, anyways, point being, there's kind of more time with Moto to like look back and forth. Whereas with Arena, you kind of got to be like on guard at all times.
Yeah, and it's probably something that will come with practice, just getting used to looking at each monitor at different times.
Yeah.
And also some of it was me looking at my different settings, making sure everything's there. I did enjoy it. Like, it was fun. I think you guys laughed at me. I punted a few times.
Yeah.
That was fun. But then...
Well, we all do.
Then it was fun. I made a really sick play, and you were the only one there to congratulate me. I'm like, Eric, why did you leave so soon? I made an awesome Niv Mizzet play.
Yeah. Whenever you cast Niv, I'm always like, oh my god. In Standard?
Fun.
No, he didn't.
Yes, I did. I love playing Drakes. It's so fun. I do not play that on the ladder, though, which can lead us into our next topic. Have you been doing the ladder grind at all?
I have not been doing the ladder grind. I honestly don't play enough Arena to actually get there. I don't know. I don't do it.
I've been doing it a little bit. I'm gold tier 3, which is like the third. I think there's 2 more.
Okay.
There's platinum, then mythic, and it's fun. It's best of 1, like all things are on Arena, unless you click specific settings, and it's mostly aggressive decks. And I play a Boros low to the ground aggressive aggro deck without any big angels for finishers. My finisher is heroic reinforcements.
That's a great card.
Which is you get 2 1/1s and all your creatures get +1/+1 and haste.
It's a heavily underrated card.
That card is so fun.
Very
like
good.
They see that and they're like, nice, and then I play it again the next turn and they're like, oh, I'm dead.
Yeah.
But I play that on the grind just because my win percentage is so good with it, and do see some of the mid-rangey stuff, and if I don't get my good draws, they will win. Because I run out of gas. That deck runs out of gas. It has to hit early, hit hard, and then be done.
Yeah.
I also have been playing Drakes, and I built a mono red deck that we will discuss in our next segment. But Drakes, I just play in the normal for funsies.
Yeah.
Because it's not as consistent. I don't have all the wild cards and stuff I need for that.
Yeah, I actually play Dimir Control because I hate life. No, I play Dimir Control. It's a really good time. Night Veil Predator is another one of those underrated cards no one plays. It's a 2 blue, 2 black, flying death touch hexproof. It's great. I love it because it kills a Drake and it flies in the air. You can't kill it with your target spells. It's very nice. Anywho, so we're going to talk a little bit more about how Standard is changing. Talk to me about your mono red deck here, Adam. Your cool stuff.
We got that new Bolt, Skewer the Critics, which is red and 2, but Spectacle for red. If they lost life this turn, you can cast it for red. Deals 3 damage to any target. That card's so easy to trigger that Spectacle cost on because you've got your Shocks, you've got your Lightning Strikes, you've got Wizard's Lightning, you've got Fanatical Firebrand, that's that 1/1 for 1. Haste, you can tap and sacrifice to deal 1 damage. So on turn 2, you can have done 10 damage fairly consistently. Something Pyromancer, when it enters, deals 2 damage to a player or planeswalker. That's another easy, quick way.
Yeah.
And then it's on a stick, so you can start punching face with it.
Yeah.
A card. The deck I've been playing isn't technically mono red because I have 2 that can be cast. They're hybrid mana, the red-black Rakdos.
Oh, that's a little when it dies, deals 1 damage.
Yes, that guy. Exactly that guy.
Yep.
And you will be surprised once they see that first Skewer the Critics, they will not block that guy for a number of turns.
Yeah, I know.
Because that will trigger that. Like, oh, I've got red mana open. I'll attack for 1. All right, thank you for the 1 damage. Now I'm just going to lightning strike you.
Exactly.
The other options I've seen a couple people. I've played mirror matches where their deck is better because, again, I don't have all the wild cards where they do play straight up Rakdos. They'll play Sovereign's Bite, which is opponent loses 3 life, you gain 3 life. The big issue I found with the deck is you run out of cards so fast.
Yeah.
So I've been trying Frenzy, that experimental Frenzy where you can't play cards from your hand, you play from the top of your deck.
Yeah.
And I've only ever drawn it once. And when I played it, the next card I drew was my second copy of it. So I didn't do anything that turn. But that was really testing as a Magic player, because you have to stop on your upkeep draw, play a few things, draw the land, the inevitable land that pops up.
Yep.
And that's the thing where I've been adjusting my mana base in this, trying to find the balance of lands to spells and creatures, to then find more shocks, more skewers, more fanatical firebrands.
It definitely makes you a better Magic player to think about, like, oh boy, like, what am I gonna do? Like, I have to actually plan out my upkeep. Like,
yeah,
or like, you know, like,
exactly.
It's a big thing. So,
do I want to draw this one, or do I want to maybe get to the next card? And
I'm so happy that card is good. Like, when I saw Experimental Frenzy, like, spoiled, I was like, no, that's never gonna see play. And it actually is. It's seeing play in Legacy. Like, like, what?
And even when it's not good, it's still fun to play, just because it challenges me to think about my turns.
Yeah.
I think when somebody's gonna break the Skewer the Critics card, and they're gonna find the build for this. I haven't done it yet. I'm not that good, and I'm still working on it. I don't know what's gonna beat this. I did have a little trouble with a life gain deck, with those mares and your not divine visitation. What's the one where you gain a life, you get to draw cards?
Oh, Johnny's Pride. Oh, no. Oh, I don't know. Oh, Dawn of Hope.
Yeah, Dawn of Hope
and Fountain of Renewal.
Fountain of Renewal.
Yeah. Broken combo.
Some of those things.
Ban it.
And that one, pay 2, gain 3 life, draw a card.
Can we go back for a second to the ban and restricted? We should ban Dawn of Hope. It's gonna be overpowered.
You are hype on that card.
I hate that card. I hate. You know how you hate playing Splinter Twin? I hate playing Life Gain. I just hate it. So,
what are your thoughts on Standard?
So I don't play a lot of Standard, honestly. I play a lot of Modern, if you couldn't tell. And I play a decent amount of like Commander and Pauper. But as far as Standard is concerned, I think that Rakdos is going to be humongous.
Yeah.
I think Gruul actually got a whole lot of love. I think it's going to be. I think my big predictions is Gruul and Rakdos are going to be huge. I think Azorius was already good. It's just going to add to the Jeskai, build. It's. I mean, maybe it'll get a little better.
The Teferi control didn't really get much in the way of tools from
really.
Other than Absorb. I've seen that a few times.
Yeah,
already.
Yeah, that would be fine.
Everything had that addendum, or it was sorcery speed, or it was Dovin Bond, which cared about creatures.
Yep.
So it was some weird Azorius stuff. So they didn't get a whole lot more tools.
No, they didn't. And so I think a big Rakdos aggro is going to be huge. I think the Gruul aggro is going to be huge, which I'm excited for, because Gruul has the possibility to do a lot of cool stuff, a lot of big fatties. Yeah. A lot of hasty, +1/+1. And I honestly see a lot of, Teamer being really big, too, because with Simic, it actually pairs really well with Riot.
Yeah.
All the +1/+1 counters and stuff like that. So I'm seeing Teamer be a big thing, too. I think that Standard is going to be a lot different. So personally, also, I really hope that Orzhov gets there, but I don't know. That one's kind of on the edge for me, because I don't know if... it gained a lot of cool Afterlife stuff, but there's nothing there that I'm like... Wow. I guess Mardu Aristocrats.
Yep.
That might be a thing.
Aristocrats being the style of deck where you sacrifice all your stuff for value or damage.
Yeah, exactly. So, that might be a thing. That new card, Vengeful Vampire, where when something... It's Blood Artist. When a creature dies, you drain for 1. So
and Tessa double trigger that sort of stuff.
That would feel nice. So I think maybe. We'll have to see.
Yeah. Another one I was looking at, Drake's. What does Drake's get? And there's a 1-mana Salamander Drake Terramander, 1/1 flying, and has Adapt 4, but it costs blue and 7, which seems redonkulous. However, that Adapt costs 1 less to activate for each instant and sorcery card in your graveyard.
So you're maybe casting this on turn 4 or 5 for 1 mana, and then adapting for 4 for 1 mana.
Yeah, or you play this as your 1-drop, and 2 turns later you adapt for 2.
That could be good.
I've had 16 powered Drakes on turn 4.
Yeah. Then you're getting 2. For example, you get like a 2-mana 5/5, really.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is not bad at all.
No, that's
Flying
pretty good.
5/5, yeah.
But then when I was looking at my unoptimized Drake list, I couldn't figure out what to drop for this. So I don't know if it fits. It just looks like it could fit. Another one I was looking at was Quench, that blue 1 counter target spell unless the controller pays 2. Some little early tempo advantage going on.
I mean, that mana leak is the same cost, and it's counter unless you pay 3. Yeah. So, I mean, that seems like a pretty cool card.
Yeah. I haven't seen a whole lot of Gruul yet, but I'm sure people will be figuring it out because Green Stompy does exist, and Riot seems solid.
Definitely. While we're on the topic of Riot, I think we should just talk about it a little bit. So, the judges have all kind of had this big discussion about Riot. And I mentioned it last week. Hey, please announce what's going on. So it's kind of a huge talk. There are kind of two schools of thought going on. So the scenario we talked about is your opponent casts a spell with Riot, like a creature with Riot, right? Let's say in this example that it actually has Riot printed on the card, because there are a couple examples where like things give something Riot.
Yeah, like Domi Raid.
Yeah, or what's that one? Like Rhythm of the Wilds. Yeah. But let's say it has Riot printed on it, and your opponent casts it, and then proceeds to cast a vanilla creature. Your Savannah Lions, a 2/1 for 1 or whatever. Some vanilla thing that doesn't do anything. So they've casted no counter on the Riot creature, then they cast something else, and then you kind of say, wait a second, like what's going on here?
And
Call a judge.
And we have to remember, Riot is this card enters with a 1/1 counter or haste.
Right. And actually, the reminder text on Riot is kind of confusing. I believe the reminder text says that this enters with your choice of a +1/+1 counter or haste, and then the actual rules text kind of makes it less of a default. I can look up the rules text in a second, but anyways, the big discussion is if there's no counter on the creature, but you didn't say, yep, it has haste. And then we say, well, wait a second, what does that creature have? Then as a judge, we kind of have to say there are two schools of thought here. The first is that you didn't make a choice. Now, in the IPG, which is the infraction procedure guide of the Magic rules, in the game rules violation infraction, there's a paragraph that says if a player made an illegal choice of a static ability or no choice, which is printed, it says or no choice where applicable, then we have to go back and apply a partial fix, which just means that you make the choice now. So, for example, this is easily explained with something like, those cards that they're printed in Khans of Tarkir where it comes into play, you choose dragons or Khans, like Tempest Siege, Palace Siege. Yep, all those cards where you choose either dragons or Khans. That's the best example, because if it comes into play and you make no choice, and we catch it, we go back to that, you make a choice right now. That's a static ability. This is also a static ability. Okay. So that school of thought says, well, if we didn't make a choice and no choice was made, we go back and you make the choice now. The other school of thought is that when that creature came into play, since you made no real talking or no verification of the choice, you actually made a choice, and by default, it gains haste. Those are the kind of two schools of thought, and the judges are actually pretty split on this right now. We're all kind of 50-50 here. So, and there's no official rules on this yet. And in fact, when I was speaking, actually the regional coordinator was talking to all of us about kind of what do you guys think about this, because there's no rules yet. It's kind of a big deal. So I am under the school of thought that when this creature entered, you did make a choice. However, by doing so, you decided it would have haste on it.
Right.
Because it kind of is, even though it doesn't say by default it gains haste, we kind of assume that in the wording, it came into play, there's no counter, and now you've cast another creature spell afterwards. Right. You've now closed the window in time which you had to make a choice, and you've now made a choice. You made a choice that has haste.
And now more information has been gained by your opponent and stuff, and then there's knowledge out there that has changed the game state.
Right. So that kind of, that's where I'm at. There are some judges who kind of would say, hey, we can go back, and even though a spell was cast, in theory, actually, in the GRV partial fix that I was talking about earlier in the IPG, even if we're in the next turn, we still apply the partial fix, and you make the choice now.
That is interesting.
Yeah,
I don't think I like that.
Yeah, I mean, and the reason is that so we can actually not, instead of having like there be a choice that we make further on, we want to fix it as soon as we can. Once we notice it, that way we can fix the game state as best we can. That's kind of the idea. Is like, well, we screwed up, we're going to fix it now.
Yeah, that situation, like say it's a 2/2, they don't make the choice, and so it would have haste. However, they don't attack with it. It's now my turn. Say I go to shock, and like, oh, I meant to put a 1/1 counter on it, so it will survive your shock.
Yeah,
that seems fishy.
Yeah, well, and a lot of judges are actually saying too, like, the saying that it has haste, like, oh, you didn't choose, therefore, like, or you did make a choice that has haste, that doesn't really affect the board state, like, at all. Like, if you were to say, like, oh, well, I put a counter on it, oh, I didn't mean to, that's a problem. However, if it has haste and you just pass the turn like you meant to put a counter on it, that really didn't affect the board state. It has haste, so what? it's not a bigger creature, so it's kind of it's less affecting of the board state. So that's kind of an argument that's been said as well. But as I say, there's really no specifics here.
But isn't stuff like life gain or lifelink, like when this does damage, you gain life? There's nothing permissive about that. It is mandatory that you gain life. So even if you miss that, you still will have gained that life when you catch it later. Correct?
Yeah. I mean, if you well, it depends on the board state as well. But yeah, when you go back, you're going to probably gain that life.
Because it's a mandatory sort of thing, and I would think that this enters with a counter or with haste. That is a mandatory thing, and when it doesn't enter with a counter, it then has haste.
Right.
At least that's my thought. I don't know.
Well, and that's why we have to. That's why everyone is saying, well, it's a mandatory thing. Therefore, we have to make sure they made a choice and go back. You know what I mean? That's kind of like. So it's very weird. It's a big circle. So the easiest way to avoid all this, when it comes into play, just say, hey, my creature has haste, or hey, here's a counter. It has a ++1 counter on it. It solves all of our problems.
Yeah, and if you put it on the players, yeah, that does. It's up to the players.
So, and then another quick note about addendum. I was reading in the release notes. Remember that if a spell with addendum, addendum is that extra little bonus on spells that says if you cast this during your main phase, you get cool stuff. So like one spell, I forget what it's like, Sphinx's Insight, where you get to like draw 2 cards or something like that. If you cast during your main phase, you gain 2 life, something like that. So cards with addendum, if the spell is copied, like let's say you cast that spell during your main phase, if the spell is copied, the copy won't receive the addendum bonus because that copy isn't actually cast. It's just a copy put on the stack, which is weird, and not a lot of folks catch that. I mean, in general, actually, if you're referring to an addendum spell, if it isn't actually cast, you're not actually going to receive. So, like, if something like some other weird commander cards. I can't think of it off the top of my head right now. But some commander card that doesn't actually cast just makes a copy of that spell. Yeah. It's not a thing. You don't get to have the addendum bonus. So that's just a fun thing to remember. I think now we're going to take a look at the banned and restricted stuff. So we just took a look at the banned and restricted announcement for today. And I think that is bullarchy.
You think it was bullarchy that I was wrong? Because I don't like being wrong.
I mean, I was definitely right.
Yes.
But also, I think it's bullarchy. So, if you haven't read the article yet, let me sum it up for you.
First, KCI is banned.
So then there's that. So I was right. I think the term is nana boo boo. But so here's why I'm a little bit piffed, as it were. The article, if you want to read it, Adam, don't even take the time, because what it says is, hey, we banned KCI, but not because you think we banned KCI for it. We banned it because it's overpowered. No. Stop. The whole article really kind of reads, hey, we banned KCI because, it has a lot of wins, it's really hard to play against, so that.
This feels like throwing a bowl of spaghetti at the wall and see what's sticking.
Yeah.
Because then they're like, because it's so complex, it's a barrier to entry to Modern.
Oh, blah. Whatever.
It's hard to execute on Magic Online, so we don't actually have true data on it. It's because it's a stupid deck. That's why people aren't playing it.
So here's the thing. I'm gonna go ahead and break this one apart for you. First of all, KCI has not, as Adam kind of just talked about, really not had that many wins. I mean, really, like Wizard says that there's a lot of wins for it. It's not huge. I mean, what do they say?
They say it has more individual top 8 finishes than any other archetype, which is possibly true, but now you're going to have something else with more any individual wins than any other archetype. It's going to be Tron.
Right.
And then the next BNR is March. You're going to have everybody, ban Tron, ban Tron.
It's ridiculous. I mean, so then they're saying, the next thing they're going to say is like, oh, well, we don't ban because of one event. Like, yeah, it was big at GP Oakland, but right. We don't ban because, okay, well, sure. Okay, yeah, all right, Wizard, that's fine. This feels a little bit knee-jerk reaction-ish to me. I mean, I don't know. And then they're saying, well, it's hard for people to get into Modern. Look, Modern decks are probably about, a competitive Modern deck is probably about $500. I mean, Dredge is like $500-600. So that's already a barrier to entry.
Right. There's so many barriers to entry that.
I mean, there are some pretty complex strategies. You have to understand the Modern meta to play Modern. You have to understand how to play Storm. You have to understand a lot of stuff to know how to play against decks. That's a lot of reasons it's hard to play Modern. Like, new players are not playing Modern. New players are playing Standard for a long time. Just like I did. I played Standard for a long time. Then I was like, no, Standard make me angry. And then I started playing Modern because I want my decks to rotate all the time. Like, saying it's a barrier to entry, no. If anything, it actually helps players more understand how Magic works and in its little intricacies.
Yep.
I mean, yeah, it's the reason this card was banned, totally bar none, is it's not fun to watch. That's
Right.
it. Period.
It's a ratings thing. That's
Exactly.
it. The other note in the BNR, just for you Pauper players, they're looking at foil and gush, just so maybe get on your copies or sell them before they're banned.
Yeah, they're tracking it for sure. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I haven't seen a whole lot of Pauper play in a while, but I don't know. Do you think it's getting overpowered over there?
I don't play Pauper. I
know.
just saw that they noted it, and I knew
Yeah.
during preview seasons they were looking at that stuff and like, this is gonna break everything.
They also just a quick another thing. They mentioned Ancient Stirrings and Mox Opal
Yep.
in the article, saying, "Hey, we're watching out for these cards too."
They did not mention Faithless Looting.
They did not. I think because they want to be very succinct with the whole like KCI thing, and both those cards are played in KCI.
Yeah.
Good on them. I mean, I think that's actually a pretty valid thing to say. To be like, hey guys, like we didn't just like snap ban KCI. We also looked at Opal and Stirrings, which are both enabling cards. But I'm proud that they banned KCI because really that is the issue here.
They wanted to kill the deck, not just when they make other bans. They want to slow the deck down. Like when they were doing that with Standard, when they were banning individual energy cards, and it kept still surviving.
Right. Then they
banned
banned
more and more. They
Right.
wanted to just straight kill this deck.
Yeah.
And it does not work without KCI itself.
Right. Yep. Definitely. So I'll now be talking about a modern deck, since we just talked a little bit about KCI banning, about a deck called the Rock. So we were going to talk about it last week.
We promised this last
Yeah.
week, and we fell short, or last time.
We did. So we're going to talk about the Rock today. So I'm not talking about the famed wrestler turned movie star, Dwayne The Rock Johnson. I'm talking about the green-black modern deck. So we're taking a look at a version of the Rock piloted by a guy named Cade Canturgiani at SCG Modern IQ Oklahoma City. Congrats to Cade. He piloted this deck to a 4th place win. So the Rock is a deck whose goal is to play threats and then answer every opponent's threat one for one.
That sounds like Jund.
It does. It's a lot like Jund. This deck plays 12 creatures and 18 spells. All of the spells are disruption or removal.
Still sounds like Jund.
It's definitely Jundish. This deck is built stock full of answers. So because of this, we're gonna hit the spells first. So this deck plays 4 Fatal Pushes. Fatal Pushes that 1 mana. Everyone knows that you got the Revolt. So it's a 1 mana black. Kill a target creature with power 2 or less, and if you have Revolt, so something left the battlefield this turn, or permanent you control off the battlefield, you can kill someone with crew mana cost 4 or less creature. This spell it has its own place in Legacy and Modern, and killing a 2-drop is extremely relevant in a format filled with Dark Confidants and Tarmogoyfs. Yep. Not to mention the easy ability to Revolt, fetch land, killing a Phoenix or an Elf Papa. It's one of those crazy elves that make mana. They run 4 Inquisition of Kozilek. That's the 1 mana disruption. You get to take something converted mana cost 3 or less out of their hand.
Same deal as Push, where it grabs so many good cards.
Yeah, it's a pseudo Thoughtseize. Yeah. So everything happens on turn 1 through 4 in Modern. So grabbing that early game nonsense is really good. 4 Thoughtseize. If you're playing black, you have to at least examine the thought of playing Thoughtseize. Just getting that out of hand is fine. And the Rock doesn't care about their life very much. So getting that out of hand is really good. And the 2 life doesn't matter. Abrupt Decay. Last time we talked about the flex spots.
Yep.
So flex spots is that aspect where all of the Rock decks kind of play the same cards, and then there are places in the deck that players can kind of customize to their own advantage. This is one of the flex spots in the Rock. Abrupt Decay. This guy is running, or guy or gal, I'm not sure, is running 1 Abrupt Decay and 3 Assassin's Trophies. Abrupt Decay can be countered, which is why it's gooder. I have that in my notes. It's gooder. Yeah, it's gooder.
The editor.
Yeah. Editor is slacking.
I'm just raging on the inside.
3 Assassin's Trophy because it's just darn good. Actually killing lands is actually halfway relevant.
And not having that limit of the CMC cost.
Yep, because that is true. Abrupt Decay
may make it gooder.
Yeah, it is gooder. It is gooder. Collective Brutality is that 1 in a black. You can duress your opponent. You can give a creature -2/-2, and then you can drain for 2 and gain 2. All for 2 mana. You have to discard. You pick 1, and then you can discard cards to choose other modes. Has Escalate. Multimodal spells are always fantastic. Being able to kill a mana dork, which is super, like killing a noble hierarch is so important in a lot of matchups. It's supreme. It's super good. He or she runs 1 Maelstrom Pulse. which is that card that destroys target creature and then everything with the same name. Hitting 2 creatures is awesome. 3 or 4 is like beyond value. Like that's just so good, so good, so good. It's kind of the special sauce that makes other decks angry to play against it. Like it sucks. Like again, having 2 nobles, killing 2 nobles with this spell is just so nice.
Does that hit? Pulse hits your own stuff too, right?
Yes,
It's
it does.
Anything on the field.
It does. So yes, if you have nobles as well, it'll hit at all. A playset actually at the time of this recording, a playset costs. Oh, just kidding. That's Liliana. Okay, so the next one's Liliana of the Veil. So this is a pretty good. I mean, obviously everyone knows Liliana of the Veil is super awesome. Keeping hand size down, keeping the board clear. The utility there is so huge. When I started first playing Magic, I was like, why is this card so good? It's not even that good.
It's making me discard cards too. I don't like that.
It's not even good. It's so good. As of this recording, a playset costs over $300, which is basically if you want to like start playing Modern and you want to like build a budget deck, you could just like buy for Liliana's or build a budget deck. Like it's up to you. This card is really, really good. No one ever ults it, so because why would you?
Why?
This deck also runs True Liliana the Last Hope, which is really interesting, and I really enjoy it. This spell really does fantastic.
And that's the one that gives you zombies as the ult.
It
right?
does, yeah. Yep. So yeah, and this is I remember winning like this when I had like green black delirium in standard a long time ago. Oh man, getting that ult, you get all those zombos, and you end up getting like 16 zombos on like the 3 turns after you ulted. It's crazy.
Yeah, I've seen that one played in Legacy. Like GP Reed Duke, he ulted that a couple times.
Yeah, it's a really, really fun card. The creature suite is just really, really super sweet. Dark Confidant is just ridiculously amazing. Also, if you don't know, you need to start calling all your Dark Confidants Bob. That is his name. Just so good. Scavenging Ooze is a main board graveyard hate that becomes humongous.
You can call him
very
Scooz.
Fast. Yeah, call him Scooz. Charmer Goyf becomes a 4/5 very quickly and costs 2 mana. I mean, that's a balanced card, right? Finally, my personal favorite from my old standard days, Tireless Tracker.
That's a good card.
Just super good. Drawing cards. You get the Revolt triggers, Fatal Push off those clues, Landfall. It makes me feel very warm and cozy inside. The land suite is about what you'd assume for a black-green deck. A lot of fetches, a lot of Verdcap Combs, a lot of stuff like that. However, it is also good to know that this deck does play 2 Hissing Quagmires, or Hissy Qs.
Hissy Qs.
Which is really, really good as well. There's a sneaky death touch blocker. Yep, manland that can get in there. It's good to sneak into damage too. They're very hard to kill. So
the big difference here is no birds like Jund.
Yeah, that's very
true.
No
bolts.
Yeah, and bolt is a big deal too. I mean, it's sad they can't play bolt, but also to splash red to play bolt would be too much.
And that would throw off their spell base because then you got to play the birds and you got to play other things.
Exactly.
Yeah, solid deck.
It's a very fun deck. It's definitely. The reason it's called the Rock is because it's just so solid. I mean, you play it and you have a threat, and it's like, whoa, I have to deal with that threat. Like, oh my goodness. And then it's like, all right, well, I can't do anything. Like, my board is empty, and then they're making another threat. Like, oh my gosh, like it's a very, very honest deck. It wins it beats you down. It's really good and fun.
A lot of incremental value out of like killing your 2 mana creature with my 1 mana push and sort of stuff like that.
Always getting that value is what they're pushing for. So
when in doubt, Jund them out.
Exactly.
That wraps up our modern discussion for a little bit. Let's talk about some more standard cards again. Well, I guess there are a few modern cards in here too. The newest Mythic edition for Ravnica Allegiance, they announced that and showed it off again. And that's the one that has those fancy full art planeswalkers when you buy 24 packs, not the full box size, for $250.
Yep.
So it's expensive still.
It is.
You still get those sweet full arts. They did a couple good things with this. They fixed their distribution chains, where last time it was only sold through their Hasbro toy shop. This time it's through the Hasbro eBay store, which we know eBay is a lot more reliable, so you can actually buy it. And the bigger thing is you can buy it globally, where you could not through the toy shop. So anybody in the world can buy this. It's not just limited to us dirty Americans. So there's improvement there. Downsides, still expensive. Second con, and the walkers, the full-out walkers, are not as good as the last set. No Teferi, none of that.
Yep.
But I still think it's pretty good. I mean, the Karn, it's not the big Karn. It's the little Scion of Urza card, which is a great card.
Yeah.
The deck is great. The big hit, I think, is Domri Raid and Kaya are both unknown on what their impact is going to be. And
Right.
no new Dovin, which I thought was weird. They didn't print all the new ones. Instead, they printed Jaya, which we know is a bad card.
Yeah.
We know that one is straight up
Jaya's not
bad.
great.
So I don't know why they did that and left out Dovin. It's not a color balance thing because they have them all over the place and nobody cares.
I don't like this.
You don't?
I don't. And here's the reason why. So first of all, I feel like Wizards is kind of like, when I saw this article, I was like, I feel like Wizards, again, back to the grandma analogy, is like your grandma, and she's like, well, it didn't work when I sold it on the Hasbro store, so I'll sell it on the Hasbro eBay store. Like, okay, but grandma, you didn't fix the problem. Like, we want this sold in game stores.
Yes,
we want this sold
that is
in,
the thing.
you know, like, we didn't wait. Go back. Like, it's not a
Or
thing.
we wanted these sold as masterpieces within the sets.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, okay, sure, we have global distribution. That's fine. I don't know. It feels like Wizards is kind of like, well, we fixed it, right?
Right.
Like, no, you didn't.
And it's really hard to speak with our wallets here because it'll be a limited run and they will sell out.
Exactly.
And because of the limited distributions, us little peons, we can't say, no, we don't like this because we can't buy it anyway.
Yep. Exactly. So it's whatever, Wizards. All right, you did it. You're like, yep, they're gonna be cool. And at some point, I'm sure I'll probably trade for one, or I'll buy one off TCG Player, or something like that.
Yeah, well, I like the arts. I would like to get some of them. Maybe someday when I stop paying student loans off. And
yeah, when we're both rich and famous
right,
off this
rich
podcast.
and famous. Yeah, our whole zero donations off our.
Woo woo!
I'll stop buying mochas. Oh, I want another mocha.
Yeah, you should get another mocha.
Thank you, Lodestone. Landon, I got another judge question for you. I saw this in the Facebook Magic Ask the Judge group. It's competitive REL rules enforcement level. Both players have kept their opening hands, and active player plays the Polluted Delta, which can get you island or swamp.
Yep, fetch land.
She activates Polluted Delta and says Inquisition. She doesn't show a card or anything. Non-active player immediately reveals the cards, and active player writes them down. Active player finishes resolving the delta and finds a breeding pool, which is island and forest,
Right.
and puts into play tapped. She ends her turn.
To be clear, she did cast, or she attempted at least to cast Inquisition of Kozilek.
No, she never attempted. She just said it.
She just said it. She didn't even cast the card?
She did not cast it. She just said Inquisition. No card was revealed. None of that. There was no attempt to cast. It was a complete bluff.
Well,
What is the ruling here?
Yeah.
On your judge's take.
So that's kind of a rough one. So here's ultimately what happened. I mean, it's so I thought that when this was written down, it was out of order sequencing by looking at it, because I assumed that she actually casted the card, but when she didn't reveal the card. I mean, that's kind of the opponent's problem there, man. I mean, like, look, when someone says to you Inquisition, granted we're playing at Comp REL, so at regular REL there's kind of like this players are newer, everyone's newer, so everyone kind of has this thing where they're like, yep, I need to see your cards, I need to read your cards. At Comp, when you're playing at Comp, it's kind of a different vibe. Like, when you're playing at Comp, if you're, let's say you're cracking a fetch land and your opponent your opponent will path your creature while you're cracking your fetch to let you search into land out. Technically speaking, none of that is legal. Like, it's not a thing. You're resolving your crack. It's weird. And you'd have to shuffle your deck for the first crack and then get the land on the second time and then shuffle again. People will just path it while you're already searching your library, so you can get another land while you're already in there. It's kind of this courtesy that happens. So, like, when an opponent says to you Inquisition, it can be very tempting to be like, oh, yep, they have it, and they're going to reveal their hand, and then you take it. Well, I mean, no card was revealed.
Right.
All they did was crack a fetch. In no way are they really lying. They didn't say, I am casting Inquisition of Kozilek now, and then didn't cast it, right, to gain information. They said Inquisition, which could mean, hey, Judge, what does Inquisition mean? Or it could mean, Inquisition, I'm inquisitioning to whatever. They didn't even say a card name. It's kind of this weird space where, I don't know.
Yeah, and it's in that weird space because the Inquisition is a 1 black mana.
Right.
And so Polluted Delta can get that black mana.
Yeah.
And so it would be a completely legal card to cast off that, and then not you, the active player, completely went a different direction. The answer that was posted was, this is technically legal. It's super scummy, and you are going to have to make a very good argument as to why you are not getting disqualified.
Yeah, so technically it is legal, like that person said. I don't know about getting disqualified if it's legal. That seems to be a bit of a...
So one of the level 3 judges, he was like, there's a bunch of us that think this is cheating because you are intentionally misleading your opponent on what your plan is to do.
Sure.
This isn't like Vendilion Click where you play it and you can look at your own hand.
Right.
And like if you're Jerry Thompson, you play Vendilion Click, your opponent starts to reveal their hand, you stop them. Like, no, I haven't resolved who I'm looking at yet.
Right.
I'm actually doing it myself, and I don't want to take advantage of you here.
I definitely hear that. But also I would think that it's very gray. I mean, yes, you're saying Inquisition, and we all kind of understand what's going on. It's really scummy.
Yes.
But I don't know if I would go as far as to say, yep, this is cheating.
Yeah.
It's a hard leap to make.
And that's what he was saying, too, is some judges are just going to give you a glare, and you are going to be hounded the rest of the day.
Right.
Me, you're getting disqualified unless you make a very solid argument to me.
Right. And that's kind of where I'm at. I would be on this because I really prefer to give people the benefit of the doubt there. I mean, that does feel really scummy, but I don't know. I in this situation, I actually might take the player aside and be like, hey, just be careful with those actions because it can be perceived a certain way. Even if it is technically a legal play, just please be careful with that kind of behavior because I'll say it again, I like this phrase a lot in the beginning of the Magic Tournament rules. A player should have an advantage because of knowledge of cards and knowledge of the game. There should really be no other advantage given.
Right.
So that's kind of a weird space. So yeah, definitely.
Another thing that happened is a member of their pro league, so they handpicked those 32 pros to make the Magic Pro League. He was Ray Sato was disqualified from the Grand Prix or what do they call those?
Magic Fest.
Magic Fest. And all the info we got was he went to his attack step, realized he needed more mana, made a land drop at that point, and went on with his attack. He did not ask his opponent if he could rewind the step or anything like that. He just went forward. He got a DQ because he knew that was wrong. The bigger issue is how does Wizards to respond to one of their own hand-picked Pro League people getting disqualified for, I don't know what the infraction would be called in this situation.
It would be cheating.
Just cheating.
I mean, he did something illegal to gain an advantage he knew was illegal.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So the answer was actually pretty quick. He wasn't suspended. They found it was not premeditated, just taking advantage of the moment right there. But he will not be invited to the $1 million Mythic Invitational at PAX East. So again, watch what you're doing, communicate, because his opponent may have let him rewind.
Well, and that's the silly thing is that update was just made so that your opponent can allow you to rewind if there was not a significant amount of information revealed. So he probably could have just rewound. Like, he could have been like, hey, opponent, am I good to rewind? I don't like this from Wizards. It feels weird. It feels not correct. I mean, it just... I don't know. So cheating. Here's. I looked up the IPG because I don't like that. In the IPG, the Infraction Procedure Guide, cheating. There are two criteria for cheating. The player must be attempting to gain advantage from their action, and the player must be doing something they are aware is not legal. So, in nowhere does that say premeditation. You don't need to be planning this from turn one.
Well, I don't think that they are disputing that it was cheating. They're just not going to remove him from their pro league.
Right, but their answer was, well, it's not premeditated. Well, that doesn't matter. We don't care. Like, it doesn't matter if it's premeditated or not. It was an illegal. It was cheating. And the fact that he's not being suspended is, I mean, I don't know. It just feels weird. Like, Wizards, come on. Like, you got to treat everyone the same here. You know what I mean?
So should people be suspended on something? Should he be suspended? Should I be suspended if I did this sort of thing?
So here's what I think. I think that when you go, like you, Adam, when you go to a GP and you make a mistake, you're gonna say, or let's say you cheat intentionally. Let's say you intentionally cheat. A couple things get looked at by, and I haven't talked to the banning, the magical banning DQ board, suspension board, because they are pretty magical. I have not talked to them, but at least my understanding of the board is when a player gets suspended, a lot of things are looked at. Prior history at GPs, cheating history, all of your record in WER, seeing if you've ever cheated before, have any infractions. If you go to a GP and you cheat, intentionally you cheat, you're probably going to get like a 4 to 6 month suspension because you cheated. Like you decided to make a very illegal move and you knew you were cheating. And I think that that's appropriate in that situation. What I'm more stating here than anything else is he's a pro player. He is someone who they picked to be a pro player. Like he's been acknowledged by Wizards that he's a pro player. Like we're all tracking this. Wizards needs to treat everyone, or at least with some decency, the same. And it's hard to look at this and say, oh well, I mean he cheated. We'll just suspend it. We'll just decline his invitation, when other people are actively getting suspended for long periods of time for cheating.
Yep.
You know,
I think there is some merit to that. I also think they probably did look at his history and realized he doesn't have a history of any of this. This was this one time. Had it been premeditated, I think he could have gotten a suspension. And people were questioning whether he would just get removed from the pro league aside from any suspension. And they decided not to. And now they might have a board with little tallies. Well, this guy got caught once, and this guy got caught. So,
and again, I'll say it again. I'm not saying that he didn't receive the right punishment, I'm just saying that there needs to be at least some consistency in the suspension. So, yeah, and just ask, man. Just be like, hey, can I go back?
That was kind of a silly mistake on his part. Like the whole situation is strange. He should not have done that. He knew better.
And I mean, and just in general, look, if you make a mistake at a GP, just tell a judge. Like, be like, look, man, like, hey, I made a mistake. I did not mean to make this mistake. Like, I have done it before where, like for example, when I was playing Death and Taxes at an event, it wasn't even a GP. It was like a competitive modern event. When I played a Flicker Wisp, and I thought that it had the same effect as an Eldrazi Displacer. Flicker Wisp, it enters, you bounce something that your opponent controls, and then it comes back into play at the end step. And I thought that it had the effect of Eldrazi Displacer, which is you pay 3 mana, it's an ability, and then it bounces, it comes back into play tapped. So big difference there. I played Flicker Wisp and said, no, okay, it comes in tapped. And I was like, oh, crap, afterwards, because I actually ended up winning the game. And I was like, hey, judge, like I got to talk to you about this real quick. And he was like, cool, well, let's go talk to your opponent. So he ended up figuring out that I actually would have won the game anyways, most likely. So my opponent was like, hey, man, like we all make mistakes. It's all good. And I was like, look, I'm so sorry. And it ended up working out okay. Yeah. But it's because I went and I was like, hey, man, like I messed up. Like I made an honest mistake here. And if I would have gone the day and been like, oh, yeah, whatever, and then it would have came up later, that would have been a bigger issue. Because then it's like, why did you talk to me?
Yeah. So it's just, that was nice. Your opponent probably appreciated you coming back to him and thought you were a pretty stand-up guy then. And
you just got to be honest. Yeah, that's the way to go. So, yeah.
Well, I think that concludes our super serious topics for today. We appreciate you listening. We'll be back in a couple weeks to attempt some more serious discussion on Magic-related topics. In the meantime, send us any questions or feedback on Facebook, Twitter, and at notsoseriousmagic@gmail.com. We are always looking for new content, and be sure to subscribe in your favorite podcast
and actually,
app.
Watch on Twitter, because we're going to be streaming a lot more, I think.
We'll probably try some more streaming.
So just watch on Twitter for us.
We have lots of punting to do, just like your favorite sports ball teams.
Exactly.
From Landon and me, thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening.